Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this meeting of the Troutdale Planning Commission for Wednesday, May 13th, 2026. If we could have a roll call, please.
Commissioner Glantz.
Present.
Commissioner Minkoff.
Here.
Commissioner Kester.
Here.
Commissioner Prickett. Here. Commissioner Wilcox.
Here.
Chair Stephenson.
Here.
And Commissioner Allen.
Here.
All right, at this time, I would like to ask everyone to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, and Commissioner Kester will be leading us this evening.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, is there anyone wishing to speak to the Planning Commission this evening on a non-agenda item? Seeing any? All right. We will move right into tonight's hearings. And we have two public hearings this evening, and before we get into those, I'd like to explain a little about the Planning Commission procedures we'll be following for the public hearing. The matters for tonight's Planning Commission meeting include case file LU 0003-2026 and LU 0007-2026. And before we open the hearing, I'd like to explain a little bit about the Planning Commission, the procedure we'll be following for the public hearing this evening. The Planning Commission is an appointed 7-member volunteer body of Troutdale citizens. Members of the Planning Commission are Troutdale residents who've been appointed by the City Council. They serve 4-year terms. They are strictly volunteers and receive no pay for their services. The Planning Commission serves as a citizen committee for the review of land use applications and various land use related matters within the city. Items which the Planning Commission consider include uses of land, subdivisions, major variances, land use policy plans, and development regulations. For some land use applications, the Planning Commission makes a final decision. For other applications, they are simply making a recommendation to the City Council, who renders the final decision. And we have 2 hearings tonight. One is a type 3. The Planning Commission will be the deciding body for that decision. And for LU 0007, that is a type 4 decision, and the Planning Commission will be making a recommendation to the City Council, who will be making the final decision. Quasi-judicial public hearings are held in accordance with Oregon law and procedures contained in the Troutdale Development Code. The hearing proceeds as follows. City staff presents their report, which includes applicable criteria and standards for the matter under consideration in the land use application. All testimony and evidence should be directed towards these criteria. If you believe that other criteria in the Comprehensive Plan Development Code or other city land use regulations apply, you must identify these criteria and explain why they apply to the decision. The Planning Commission accepts public testimony relating to the application. The applicant is allowed to speak first, followed by proponents, then by opponents, and then by any parties neutral to the application. An opportunity will be provided to anyone testifying to clarify any issues raised. All issues raised by a participant during the public hearing must be sufficiently clear and specific to allow the Planning Commission and other parties an opportunity to respond to those issues. Failure to raise an issue during this public hearing may invalidate a future appeal based on that issue. Prior to closing the public hearing, any participant may request an opportunity to present additional evidence or testimony regarding the application. The Planning Commission must grant the request either by continuing the public hearing to a future date or by leaving the record open for at least 7 days to admit only that specific additional written evidence or testimony. If the record is left open for additional written evidence or testimony, any participant may file a written request for an opportunity to respond to new evidence submitted during the period the record was left open. If such a request is filed, the Planning Commission shall reopen the record to allow any person to raise new issues which relate to the new evidence, testimony, or criteria for decision making. And these proceedings will be recorded, and please state your name and address clearly for the record. so that that can be picked up by the recorder. Before we open the public hearing, does anyone have any conflict of interest, bias, ex parte communication?
Nothing new since both of these are continued.
They are. Okay, hearing none. Okay, we will go ahead and further with the continuation of case file LU 0003-2026, which is a home forward monument sign. And this one, we are continuing the record, and the applicant has withdrawn her application for this. So at this time, we will close the public hearing.
23, or 0003.
Did I not say 3?
Yeah, you did.
Okay.
Okay,
Sorry.
I just want to make sure that was correct.
And so we will now close the public hearing and close the record for case file LU 0003-2026. Okay. And now on to the next one, which is LU 0007-2026. These are proposed text amendments for zoning district overlays. And this one is also a continuation. And so we will go back to staff.
Alrighty. Alrighty. Thank you, commissioners. My name is Dakota Meyer. I'm the associate planner here with the city, and I'll be presenting the staff report and presentation for case file number LU-0007-2026, the Main Streets on Halsey Code audit for the proposed text amendment to Chapter 4 for an overlay for the new Halsey Gateway Overlay District. A little bit of background. In 2025, Metro awarded the 2040 Planning and Development Grant to the City of Troutdale to conduct an audit of the current development code to identify barriers to housing and economic development along the Halsey corridor. The key outcome of this code audit was to establish functional development standards with focus on pedestrian connectivity and design aesthetics to expand the downtown feel along the Halsey corridor. As part of the scope of the work and deliverable package to Metro for the grant award, the city is to review and consider the recommended code updates that were produced as part of this project. There is one primary request with this application for a recommended code amendment to Chapter 4 of the Troutdale Development Code to add the Halsey Gateway Overlay, or HGO, to that section as its own standalone overlay. On the map here, you'll see that it shows the highlighted areas, the area that would be affected by the overlay. The areas that are to be affected, the zones, I should say, are downtown mixed use, or MU1, and general mixed use, or MU2, within the overlay. Here are the proposed amendments. All the amendments within this package are within Chapter 4 of the Troutdale Development Code, or zoning district overlays. The proposal is to add 4.700 Halsey Gateway Overlay District. This overlay would add residential and mixed use requirements or limitations for residential uses, add site design and building massing and articulation requirements, add building design requirements, and add height bonus standards if a development exceeds 35 feet, albeit this bonus is capped at 4 stories or 50 feet in the MU1 and MU2 zones. Proposed text amendments, I'm just going to run through the entire section. So in 4.715, residential and mixed use requirements, limitations for residential uses. Residential uses are limited in the gateway overlay. Mixed use development requirements. Residents shall be permitted only when part of a mixed use development, such as vertical or horizontal mixed use. Limitation on Halsey or on street level housing. No more than 50% of the lot frontage facing Southwest Halsey Street or historic Columbia River Highway in the gateway overlay may be occupied by ground floors or street level residential uses. In section 4.720, site design and building massing and articulation requirements. Building portions of the building facades that are vertically separated by a gap of at least 10 feet in width, extending at least 20 feet in depth from the street property line are considered to be separate facade areas for the purpose of facade measurements. So this is the This is the massing section within the proposed code amendments. Next is 4.7. This is what I just said, sorry. This is the massing right here. Here is 4.730, building design requirements. Ground floor height, at least 12 feet. Ground floor windows, a minimum of 60% coverage. Ground floor entrances for residential uses. At least 50% of the dwelling units on the street-facing ground floor of a building must provide pedestrian access between the main entrance of the dwelling and the street. There's weather protection requirements within this section. Pedestrian scale lighting must be provided within 20 feet of the street. And corner features, emphasize building corner or corner plazas. Here's the section that was discussed most of the discussion was around on the April 8th public hearing. We did make a change to this section based on the discussion at the previous hearing. So in section 4.740, height bonus and community benefits, height bonus, which is 4 stories or 50 feet, must provide 4 of the 7 now. We added a new community benefit. Those community benefits are a mural or public art, public seating, additional landscaping, oversized openings, additional weather protection, enhanced architecture, and the one that we provided, which is provides 60% of the minimum parking listed under section 9.010 of the Troutdale Development Code. And you'll see that in the updated amendment package that came out with the staff report. If a developer or applicant chooses to go opt for the high bonus, the Planning Commission must go through a Type 3 review and must go through Planning Commission approval. There's also a height step down requirement. One portion on the portion of the site within 20 feet of a lot line that abuts a residential zoning district, and abutting setback must be at least 10 feet deep for every story above 35 feet. So step down and step back. Public comments. We did not receive any new public comments previous to after the April 8th hearing. However, I just want to remind everyone of the comments that we received prior to the April 8th hearing. We did receive a comment from Metro with a question on whether the standards for no more than 50% of lot frontage can be used as street-facing residential conflicts with the UGMFP Title I. And staff's response is the 50% limitation is for mixed-use developments only. All other approved housing types are not subject to this standard. We also received a public comment from a Troutdale resident, David Green, in support of the proposed design standards and 50-foot height bonus for the following reasons. It promotes a 20-minute city. It provides vibrant streetscapes, balanced density incentives, and reasonable height transitions. The proposed findings of fact found in 6.1120 for text amendment approval criteria I'm not going to read through all the findings of fact. They're outlined within the staff report. Those had not changed from the previous hearing, but I will read through what the criteria are. Finding 1A, the proposed change of the development code does not conflict with the applicable comprehensive land use plan goals or policies. Staff finds this criteria is met. B, the proposed change is consistent with the applicable statewide planning goals. Staff finds this criteria is met. C, the proposed change is consistent with the applicable provisions of Metro Code. Staff finds this criteria is met. D, public need is best satisfied by this particular change. Staff finds this criteria is met. And E, this change will not adversely affect the health, safety, and welfare of the community. Staff finds this criteria met. Staff recommendation. Staff recommends approval of case file number LU-0007-2026 and adoption of the findings for city council consideration. If recommended, the city council hearings will be held on Tuesday, May 26, 2026, and Tuesday, June 9th, 2026. If the matter is continued, the above schedule will be affected. That's the end of my presentation.
Additional questions for staff? Councilor Glantz.
I have a question on, it's page 22 of the PDF packet, where it's a setback of 10 feet for every story above 35 feet. When does a story begin? If at 35 and 6 inches, 35 feet and 6 inches is the start of a floor, does that entire floor count as an additional story? It's the one with the green back, figure 10, height step down. I can share the page.
Polling it,
Right here.
So that's for every story that's above 35 feet. So if the story starts at 35 feet 6 inches, then it's that story that's above that would then have to go back. But right now, our current height standard is 35 feet max in the zone, in that entire area, so they can't go above. So nothing is built up to the 35 feet. Typically, it's just slightly below. So then any story above that would be step back an additional step back 10 feet.
So if I have a story that ends at 35 feet and 6 inches, does that entire story then count to need an additional? Because it's not like we wouldn't give them a 6-inch variance.
Well, I think that's more of a question of the variance, because as of right now, they can't go above 35 feet. So if they're building something they want to go above, then they would build it to where it's 35 feet. But if it is 35 feet 6 inches, then anything above that 6 inches would have to then be stepped back.
So the entire floor would count if any portion of it's over 35 feet.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
You guys have anything?
We're just for questions if you have anything. And then see what happens.
All right. We took testimony at the last meeting. Does anyone wish to testify this evening? Seeing none. I've got none. I'll motion close.
I move that we close the public hearing.
Second?
Okay, we have a motion and a second to close the public hearing. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Public hearing's closed. All right, here we go. Okay. So parking, I just want to clarify this, is 60% of the minimum?
Correct. Listed within the section based on the use, which,
So the minimum is 1.
The minimum for the uses are based on the parking table.
yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. And just remember too, that since these are mixed-use buildings, these uses are gonna be sharing parking. So for example, the parking spaces for commercial could be empty in the evening hours for residential development, for like residential folks to use. So I just want people to keep that in mind.
Well, could be unless you've got a use. So like, let's say you have like a store of some type. That's going to be open when you've got more of these people home, right? Because that's going to be their clientele.
That could be.
There's a possibility for that.
Well, like if you had a store that was closed, just thinking out loud here, is closed when those people are home, that isn't going to work very well for anybody. Because it wouldn't be a service that they could really use because it would be closed when they're home. It's open when they're gone, right?
Well, I feel like it's like mixed use development, what could be on the ground floor could be a number of different things, but say business hours are 9 to 5, and if people work 9 to 5, then say that business might not be open when they're home, but it could be open on the weekends when they are.
That's why I used an example of like
Yeah.
a store. Okay,
Compared to an eating and drinking establishment.
Or
which is
compared
more
to
likely open later.
financial advisor or whatever.
And it could be that it's not just people in that building who are patronizing that store, right? It's gonna be, they're not gonna make up the entire market for that store. So it's gonna be other folks who are coming to that place if it's a store. The other thing I would say, if there's people working from home, they're gonna be there during the store hour, regardless of when the store closes. So I think it just kind of depends. You want me to come up here?
Yes. Sorry.
Also, if you have people that don't necessarily work 9 to 5, and they're home, that might be a small majority, let's say. That's gonna take up parking too, as well.
It could.
But it'd be more open in the evening, they're gone. So, I mean, there's a,
It's gonna be a balancing act,
Yeah.
however
however
you do it.
yeah.
And the parking's gonna be for all the uses in the building, right? The combination of the residents, of the businesses, whatever's there, it's gonna be 60% of the required amount for all of those things. But there will be almost surely some sharing of that parking between those different types of uses.
What happens when a resident has 2 cars? It's gonna take up extra. I mean, if you count one for one, I mean,
And again, that could come down to the developer, say the developer or that develops site, they could charge for an additional car, that's up to how they figure that out, yeah. But I think that's like typically if you have just strictly multifamily residential, typically if a residence in the apartment complex has more than one car, they will charge them a fee for an additional parking space or they can't park it on site. That's just how it typically goes, and it's up to the developer or the management company on how they want to go about it.
okay.
It's also not unusual that people who live in more dense mixed-use housing situations, issue extra vehicles anyway. That's just the style of living that those
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
people who choose those mixed-use residential styles of units, things that are increased density like that. In my experience, and with the people that I've known that have been in and out of those kinds of living situations, typically don't have more than one car, simply because it's a pain to find some place to put it. If it's a family that must have more than one vehicle, they're not looking at those kinds of apartments. They're looking at single family residences or different kinds of apartment complexes, multi-bedroom apartment complexes that offer more parking, often suburbia somewhere.
So the minimum parking, the base would be what? One?
It depends on the use. So that parking table indicates minimums by the square, for businesses, it's based on a square footage. So it's typically one space per X 100 square feet of space within the building. For residential units, it's a number per unit. Again, you'd sort of apply that to the number of units and the square footage of the uses and add it all up, and then you get a certain number of parking spaces. And so this was added to the list of things that somebody could provide to get the height bonus, right? It's one of a number of things that they could do. And it doesn't prevent anybody from providing more parking. If the developer wants to provide more parking, if they think, hey, most of the people living in this building are gonna have one car and I'm not gonna be able to rent these units unless I provide more parking, they're gonna provide more parking. I mean, that's kind of typically what developers do. They look at their market in terms of types of businesses they're attracting, the number of and types of units they're attracting, and they, in most cases, provide a certain amount of parking to try to hit the sweet spot there. So that's my experience in looking at development kind of around the region and other places.
We're just trying to understand if it's 60% of the minimum, right? That's less than the minimum.
Correct.
And that's an incentive.
It's an incentive because you can't otherwise require them to provide any parking in this zone. So it's an incentive in that they're providing the parking to get the extra story of height, which gives them more rent, makes potentially the development more financially feasible for them. And this was, again, something y'all suggested we do. So, but if we say, oh, you've got to require the minimum number of parking, my opinion is it's not going to be an incentive that anybody is going to take advantage of. It's just too much expense to get the extra story. So if you want to use this as an incentive, staff's recommendation is hit it at 60% for the incentive. Again, it doesn't mean they can't provide more if they want to provide more. But that's what they would have to provide to get the incentive if they choose that as one of the 4 things they're going to do to get the extra height.
Sandy, I see you have your hand up.
1 second, Rich. Commissioner Glantz?
Yep. I'm just curious. I'm looking at the related development code. Is mixed use under general retail or personal service, including shopping centers and grocery stores? I don't see mixed use as a called out segment.
It's not called out because how we would typically do it is, as Matt had mentioned, is it'd be a combination added up of multifamily dwelling and whatever the general retail, whatever the use is going to be on the bottom. It's an equation where you add them up. So it's not individually called out. So it doesn't have a single minimum.
So if it's like some of the Fairview units where they have the business on the base floor and then a 2 or even 3-story residence, that would be, do we calculate it as one residence and then just the square footage of the base level?
It'd be the square footage of the base level plus the total number of units that are proposed above.
Okay,
The minimum is 1 unit per, or 1 space per unit. So say they're providing 80, and then the square footage on the bottom would be 80 plus the square footage on the bottom, and then 60% of that would be the minimum.
okay. I would just comment then that I think we need to be at least 65% because we're still a suburban town where we don't have a lot of access to other types of transportation or, ready access to that. And if we want to get this type of development to be adopted, we need a little bit more parking.
Mr. Allen?
I'm looking at the map there and you think, well, okay, we have these developments in our town. And you think back to who developed them and who owns them now. More likely than not, it's not the same. The developer is not the person who owns the property. In most cases in the city, I think we can check that, right? And so I don't know that the developer necessarily cares. It's who's going to be owning the property or who's going to be living there. They're the ones who are going to care. Maybe they have one car or family. Most have more, but let's say in this particular case, they have one car. Well, are the remaining parking spaces really enough to support enough trips to a business to keep it viable? Or do we end up with a dead economic zone? So many of them around these days. And Sheriff Stephenson, you would know more than I do, because I think you're a little closer, you've been in your past more closer to this, as to how many trips it takes to keep a business viable. It just seems slim to me, so I'm a little nervous about it, but I'm open to ideas.
Who knows?
I had a question on the, actually the memo language related, if you're talking about the parking option choice, number 7. And it reads, to see if adding parking as a community benefit to incentivize increased height. Does that sound right?
So adding parking would be,
I don't think we're trying to incentivize height in any shape or form.
well, it's,
You're allowing for.
you're allowing for the height if they add the parking.
Parking as an incentive to get. the
Yeah,
extra
all of these are
support for somebody who
incentives.
Wants to do it.
To increase the height. If they were, but that's why we call them community benefits, because they're more of a benefit to the community, but it's an incentive to the developer.
We have to keep in mind too, they have 6 other choices
Yep.
on those 7.
Correct.
Parking spaces, single parking spaces, thousands of dollars.
Correct.
Right. That's why if it was my decision, I'd weight them differently. I would say that if parking's like your most important one, I'd put more emphasis on that.
I would agree with that.
Wasn't there something in the code where we tried to assign like points to things and that got unwieldy and?
That was in the previous version, that was first developed, that was part of the 2017 code amendment that came through, was a point system. And it got a little bit, it was a little bit more confusing. And in our current code, we use the pick so many, like pick from the list in other areas of our code. So we chose to go with the picking version because it is more cohesive with our code. It's and a little bit easier. Okay, I have to do this, 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 and this instead of, okay, how many points did I get for that one again? How many points did I get for this one again? Type thing.
Could we, I guess, increase the odds of a developer choosing the parking by simply saying you don't need 4 of the 7, you need 5 of the 7.
Or the parking is like the gold star or something.
Well, I guess the other comment that I would have in that sense is because every single one of these is gonna come in front of us. And that is part of the pitch that they will have to make
Right.
to planning commission to get the extra height approved. And they have to come before this body and basically say, we think the choices that we've made for these incentives is good enough. And it's up to this group to say yes or no, that's good enough.
There is criteria for them, so it'd be like, it'd have to be something where we said, okay, you haven't met the criteria for this.
Right. Such as, like an example that pops in my head is like, okay, say public seating is one of the options that they chose. But in the plan and the narrative that they submit, the public seating is chintzy, minimal, blah. And it's like, okay, no, that's not good enough. That doesn't fit the spirit of the incentive that we're trying to put forward. And I think that will be up for us to decide as a group.
I think that if we spell out in here, that would be up for us to decide. So we could change the incentive at the time of the hearing.
Well, I think,
No, you're
No, it'd have to
reviewing.
It would be whatever is spelled
they
out, like if
propose.
it's spelled out to a 10-foot bench, and they did a 10-foot bench, right, they would meet that criteria. Am I incorrect there?
Right, if you spell it out that way, but let's just say
A bench
a bench.
or seating.
yeah, see,
And there's other areas within their plan where they could put seating.
Yeah.
You could ask for additional seating.
the way I see this going is much in the way that applicants have to justify variances that they bring in front of this body. They have to justify that the conditions that their lot is providing is enough to justify the code variance. In that same way, these incentives are going to be justified by the developers is the things that they're providing are good enough to give them the height bonus. We're putting some guardrails around we're putting code guardrails around a 1-story variance in our height code.
Correct. I would just be afraid of something getting denied and appealed. I don't know. Commissioner Glantz?
What if we say that we just, spell it out and say, we appreciate this as, the most expensive option for parking, and this counts as 3. Do this and something else. I mean, that's from a developer standpoint, they're going to look at dollars and cents.
Right. So like CFEC, we're not going to have to put in all the parking that we normally would because it's residential.
Well, it's within the CFEC boundary.
Which we're in the CFEC boundary.
Yes.
So the only parking that we could ever really even mandate would be for the commercial piece. Or that's going to be required.
You can't require any
No
parking
require any parking.
in need.
Any
Right.
parking.
So if I can't require any,
I mean, that's why I think you're doing this, is to provide a way for people to, I won't say be forced to, but for there to be a strong incentive for them to provide some parking. That's sort of the point of adding this to that list.
and I guess from a practical standpoint, is if you had some type of a retail operation, right? that's going to be contingent upon, if it's retail, it'd be contingent upon other customers, other traffic. And if there's no requirement for parking, how does that work?
I mean, if you're asking me, I think the developer is going to build parking because they know their customers need parking. I don't think you're going to have anybody come in here and not provide any parking. Because they would not be able to sell that building. They would not be able to lease the space in that building. They just couldn't do it from a financial feasibility perspective. So I think you're going to get parking probably regardless. What this does is say, hey, if you want an extra story of height, you've got to provide at least this much parking in exchange for getting that extra story of height.
It doesn't mean that they're not gonna put parking in, even if it was one story.
Exactly.
Put some parking.
They're most likely going to put some parking in.
Good.
Not too many places. Again, this is not Southeast Portland. And even in Southeast Portland, most developers provide parking. Even there, most of them do. Even on a frequent transit line and in a place where most people walk, or a large percentage walk to what they need to get, people are providing parking. So in this environment, I think you're going to get some parking having this provision in, and you could, as you've discussed, weight it higher, say this is worth 2 or 3 of these incentives out of the 4 you've got to provide, so that would be a way to increase the desirability of them doing it. But I do think you're going to get some parking regardless. Because I think you're right that often you end up with somebody else eventually owning the building, but the developer's the one that's paying to have it built, and she's got to be able to lease it, they got to be able to sell it, it's got to be a viable building, or they're not going to be able to make that happen.
They have to be able to make a financial gain on
They
it.
have to be able to make a financial gain.
And otherwise, it's a walkability situation. Is the whole point of this code package is to provide a more pedestrian-friendly environment for walkability and cohesiveness with the downtown. So, like, on top of this provision, there is the idea of this entire code package is to be a more walkable area.
That's what most of these other incentives are about, right? So it's trying to kind of balance those things and hope somebody or require somebody to want to hire a taller building provide a number of those different things.
They are, I'm just saying, like, okay, you're not gonna have, I mean, show me an area out here where you could do a 3-story building with commercial on the bottom of it and it would self-sustain itself without having to pull in from other areas, right? And I'm not saying, I'm just saying one of the most likely things you might put in would be some type of retail or a food service or something. That'd be very difficult to sustain itself without having to pull people in. And I'm not saying they wouldn't put in parking. I'm just thinking if you've got 3 stories of residential, right? How much parking do you net out from that? I know it's the hand we're dealt, it's CFEC, there's nothing we can do about it, but it's kind of like, I'm just saying it's gonna be very difficult to fill the commercial space.
Well, I have a
Oh, sorry,
question.
Commissioner Minkoff, sorry.
That's all right. Thank you very much. I'd just like to throw in my 3 cents. And just push back slightly on the comment that even builders in Southeast Portland are adding parking. If you look up and down Division in the 30th Avenue area of Salt and Straw and so on, that district for at least a mile or so, there is something like 30% parking to tenant residency. So they're expecting 70% of the residents to ride bikes because they've got plenty of bicycle parking, structure, those metal devices, but no parking. And trying to find any parking in front of Salt and Straw and all of that commercial area where there's commercial on the bottom and residential on the top for 4 stories or higher in that area, there is virtually no parking. There is extreme insufficient parking. So people are jamming in wherever they can up and down all the residential blocks and neighborhoods all around because that's where they need to park. So I don't know that the current climate for builders is to add parking. I think the current climate is for builders not to add. Now, given the restrictions of CFEC, all we can do is to try to incentivize as much as possible. I think we're talking about all the incentives we probably can offer. I don't really know what other incentives there might be in order to persuade builders to add parking. So, this whole conversation and discussion is really boils down, because of CFEC, boils down to how do we sweeten the pot enough to get builders to add sufficient parking? Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Allen?
That partially answers my question. It's like I can't be the only one that's running across these developments without parking. They're happening. And there's a reason why the legislature was pushed to allow developments without parking. Because there's some that don't want to do parking. They're going to go in there, they're going to build it, it's going to seem nice, they're out of there. Somebody spends their life savings, they open up a business, they don't get enough trips, they fail, they lose all their money, somebody else tries. You see this just so often in the community.
Gresham Station has one. It's off the light rail. It's a large-
Predominantly empty, really.
Yeah. There was a coffee shop in there, did really good, but it's gone now. And all the commercial property below those apartments is open and waiting for somebody to come. There is no parking there. The residential park, or the apartment parking is in the back. There's some, but there's none.
Not enough to sustain a
Not
business.
enough to sustain it, no.
I mean, on that note, I would argue that based on what Commissioner Minkoff said, if you look at that section of Division, it's constantly busy. Not everybody lives there. I go down there quite a few times. They have some great restaurants. And I'll drive down there and then walk the entire thing. Park out a ways, because it's a very walkable area.
I actually live a half block from Division on 37th.
So the businesses are actually doing extremely well.
This is your fault, your car.
My fault. I will say, and I walk that street every day, and actually the majority of the new residential mixed-use buildings do have parking. It's in the back and it's tucked under. And they have a significant number of parking spaces for those residents. I live in a single detached house, a half a block off Division. I have never had to park more than a half a block from my house. Ever. Even at peak times there is basically between like 6 and 8, and that's because it is a destination. You've got people coming in there from all over the region to go to those restaurants, to go to a movie theater. And there is actually, it's a very different situation because there is actually ample room for on-street parking in that area, and that's why you really don't have to park more than a half block to a block off a Division. Rarely, to be able to visit one of those places. No, on Division itself, yeah, there's really limited parking right in front of Salt and Straw. But a half a block away there is, and most people that go there, that's why they go there, to visit those places. So, I mean, it's kind of an apples and oranges comparison, but I just have to say those things because I live a half a block from there. So I see it every day. And I experience it in terms of I own a car and I park my car on the street. Right now I have cut off my off-street parking, so I park on the street. And again, I drove here tonight, I parked a half a block away from my house. So but it's a really different situation. But I will say that I know of only one building on that street that didn't provide parking for its residents. And they actually did in the form of a lot across the street, but like on site. I know of only one place that didn't. All the rest have it. It's typically tucked under. And I don't know what the percentage they provide is, but you know, again, they're managing the property, they're renting those units, and people are moving in there or have moved in there. So I do think, and what I've seen just around the region in terms of development applications coming into places like Beaverton, even adjacent to light rail stations, they are still providing a fair bit of parking because, again, they know they have to be able to rent units. So that's why I say these things, because I'm looking at these development applications coming into these other cities that are more suburban in nature than Southeast Portland, which is its kind of own. So.
Yes. Okay. Commissioner Wilcox.
We're still on parking?
Yeah. Are you off of parking?
I'm going off parking.
Okay, we can go off parking.
I wanted to
We'll
address
circle back.
another measure, setbacks. Previous meeting, Commissioner Glantz questioned the 5-foot setback, I think. So I went downtown, historic highway, on the north side, this side, measured the depth of the sidewalks, tape measure, 7.5 feet. We're talking 5 feet here. 5 feet's okay. We're talking side yard in a residential area because you got 5 feet each side of the lot line. So you actually got 10 feet of separation between building walls. I didn't find a single building on Main Street that was, less than 10 feet from the curb. So I'm really questioning your 5-foot minimum setback. That's if you have tree planters, it's going to obstruct the sidewalk.
Question on that is, if I remember reading the setback requirements, that's 5 feet setback from the right of way throughout the street.
Right.
It's in addition to the sidewalk.
So it's beyond the sidewalk.
From the sidewalk to the edge of the sidewalk to the building. It's not doesn't include the sidewalk itself. I think
The right of way.
So the edge of the right of way, then you go back an extra
5 feet.
5 feet.
And the right of way along Halsey is quite large.
It's considerable.
I'm following your measuring.
No, I wish I had one.
It was so light.
right of way includes the area from the curb to curb plus the sidewalks and any planting strip. So that's the right of way. And then once you get to the edge of the right of way, then you got to step back another minimum of 5 feet past that to the edge of the building.
So you're including the sidewalk in the right-of-way measure?
Yes.
That is how right of way is defined.
Sidewalk
The
is.
sidewalk is public right of way, so yes, it is. It is included. Yeah. And I don't recall what the proposed sidewalk width is in the street design for Halsey, but it's pretty wide.
I think it was 6 feet. Sorry.
I think
The sidewalk, is it only 6? I thought.
but it depends because they have a part
depends.
of the bike, some of the
Yeah,
bike
there's a
lanes,
strip.
it varies
Yeah,
throughout
the
that section.
shared path.
Because then the shared path, the bike comes in and then it goes wider to like 6 feet or so, leaving 4 feet total for the sidewalk itself. As of right now, our current code has pretty wide sidewalk requirements for along 257.
Does ADA define a sidewalk width?
I have to double check. We don't have that within our code. That's a state standard.
I checked with Travis, he said 4 to 5
He
feet.
said, for ADA, and that's the minimum.
Yeah.
Almost always wider than that.
Yes,
In
most.
this area especially. So yes, it does, that's not part of the 5 feet.
Right. Be 5 beyond that.
The actual setback of most of those buildings on the north side would be tiny.
From the right of way.
From the right of way, yeah. Yeah, on historic Columbia River Highway downtown, and the setback from the right of way, most of those buildings on the north side of the street, I mean, have almost zero setback.
I think they are zeros. I think they're lot lines, correct?
Some of them are.
So it must be. Yeah.
As you get out of there, they're all 30 foot from center. Okay.
Talking about downtown.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're basically all 0 lot.
So I get it, but this is just a comment, you know, and I'm probably as pro-development as anybody, but this is fairly developer-friendly, right? 'Cause we're increasing the height, we're decreasing the amount of parking that you have to put in.
We're not decreasing the parking. See, Salem did
Well,
that.
the net result is, right?
Right.
When they come in with an application, they can come in with an application with less parking and more height.
Well, they don't have to provide any parking, so I would argue that you're increasing the amount of, if they want to use that as, again, one of their incentives, because you otherwise can't require any, so you're actually increasing it. For this area. I mean, because otherwise, they don't have to put it in, so.
Where's that 60% of minimum come from if there's no minimum?
Well, the minimum is what you would require in other parts of the city.
Yeah. That's why it's per section 9.010, which is what our parking standards are for anywhere outside of CFEC. So you have to provide the minimum of what would be there, say CFEC wasn't a thing. The minimum is, like, this is what the minimum would be, so now you provide 60% of that since you're in CFEC.
It's a guide. Yeah. That's about all you can do. Commissioner Glantz?
The other thing that caught my attention is that the parking minimum incentive includes street parking.
Correct. Yeah.
That seems generous. What if we kept it at 60 but removed street parking as part of
You
the?
cannot remove street parking. That is a requirement from DLCD when I reached out to them to see if this was possible. Which they did give kudos to Planning Commission for a great question. They had to do quite a bit of research on that to see if providing parking, if we can incentivize parking with the height like we are proposing here, because they'd never had a question like that before, and they had to double check the legal language, but street parking has to go towards it. And it has to remain part of the list of options, cannot be a standalone.
I still consider it a victory, okay?
I would, based on what DLCD said, I would say it's a victory.
Nothing else, we made them work for it.
Yeah.
Okay, so the only other solution to that would be to raise it from the 60 or 65 that you had proposed before, was taking that percentage up higher because you're concerned about on-street. That'd be the only thing you could do.
I think that just justifies increasing it to 65%. I'm really trying to be reasonable. I really am.
I understand that. I see. Oh, Commissioner Kester.
I would be all for both changing the percentage to 65% and kind of doing what was suggested and weighting that option at least to at least 2 choices, if not 3, on the incentive list. I mean, just to kind of, if nothing else, get the point across saying this is what we want you to do.
And I'll just speak for myself. I think several of these are kind of relatively low cost or quite a bit less cost than parking would be to put in. And some of these are kind of easy. I would just say if you really want to, I don't know, if you really want to have an impact, I'll just throw this out and then everybody can throw up. But I would say 75% of the minimum, and parking qualifies by itself.
Can you read that back to me as to what it would actually mean in effect? So you have parking, or you can do these things.
If you did parking at 75% of the minimum, you could increase the height. Okay, without doing the bench or the art or the mural or the landscaping, right?
Anything else?
How about this as sort of take a combination approach, saying if you do parking at 60% of the minimum and some of the other incentives, you can get away with that. Or if you do parking at 75% of the minimum, we'll take that all by itself.
Ooh, give them a choice.
I still want the base at 65.
Pardon me?
I'd still want the base at 65. Sorry, Kevin. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. My question is, clarify for me, are we phrasing this correctly? 65% of the minimum?
Yes.
That puts it below the minimum. A minimum is a minimum. And if you're saying 65% of a minimum, then that's below the minimum.
If it was in a different district.
Right.
The minimum in this zone is zero.
Zero, nothing.
So we're trying to say 65% of zero.
No,
We're trying to say the minimum parking in anywhere else for this type of development would be X amount of spots. You have to provide at least, say, 65% of those. Otherwise, they're only required to provide zero.
65% of, so, okay. Of what figure? The residential?
of what it would be if it was not in this zone where it allows for zero.
Listed under section 9.010 of the Troutdale Development Code, which is our parking graphic.
Okay. And that lines up with CFAC.
That would be what you would, if you took CFAC out of the picture.
This is okay to do with CFAC, basically. We got a rule that this is okay to do with CFAC.
With
Because it's an
CFAC,
option.
okay.
Pardon me?
It's a bonus.
Right.
Because it's an option.
And it's not a requirement. We cannot require in any way, shape, or form parking in this area.
This was the best we could do.
And the height you're shooting for is,
So how do we phrase that? 65% of what the minimum would be if this building were not located in this particular spot. How we should codify something that explains it without every builder raising their hand and asking, what the hell does 65% of a minimum zero mean?
65% of the minimum parking standard in 9.010.
That's how we
That
have.
covers it.
That does cover it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It points directly to those other standards.
What is that standard, one space?
For residential, and then it's based on a square footage for commercial.
And it's the combination.
It's the combination of those two.
Okay, so if you have a 100 unit, multi-unit complex, talking 60 or 60 spaces out of 100.
Total.
Say, and that's just for the residential part, and then whatever commercial space is underneath, say it's based on a percentage, I can look at the actual percentage, but say they are supposed to require at least 2 spaces per 1,000 square feet, and it's a 2,000 square feet, okay, say that's 4 spaces, so it's 4, it'd be 104 spaces, then 60% of that is what they would have to provide.
Well, I'm thinking too on Halsey, there's very minimal street parking. So if you got a deficit of available on-site parking, they're going to spill into the neighborhood.
Yeah.
potentially. I mean, like we said, this is,
Does the developer want that? Do they want a complex that a third of their residents nowhere to park?
I mean, they.
Remember, the developer can choose how much parking.
Yeah, and also, they also don't have to provide anything as it is. So if they want to go up, this is a potential for them to provide parking and go up. But otherwise, right now, if they don't want to do this height bonus at all, they can put 0 down there and develop the site as it is right now.
You can build a 3-story building and.
They can build a 3-story apartment building with 0 parking, currently, right now. So this is trying to incentivize them to provide parking. Now, I do firmly believe that developers will provide parking. But this is saying, hey, you get to add more units to give you more money if you provide at least 60, 65, 75% of the minimum amount of parking that you would originally not have to do at all. So I think that's why that's why we're moving in this direction. So we can say it's like, oh, it's not enough, but right now, not enough is 0. So anything's better than 0.
It does remind me of my favorite phrase, don't let perfect be the enemy of good. It means you're never gonna get the perfect thing. You know, you probably will have some spillover, but this feels like a good approach to get something you want, right? And for the developer to get something they want.
What's the height you're targeting
Me?
In this.
in this?
50 feet or 4 stories.
We're talking about 50 or 4 stories, and I would also suggest if we're going 50, because right now we're at 55, and if you got a variance, you'd be at 63. Okay.
And if I provide 65%
Parking, I could go to 50 feet is what we're proposing, but if there was no variance to it, it would cap at 50.
right,
Otherwise, it would be at what, 50, 75?
57.5, which is not enough for another story, and it would just be maybe a slightly more pitched roof.
Could be. But I think I think from the community standpoint, there's probably a difference between a hard 50 and a variable 50. Because going from 35 to 50 is a long way in some people's mind. So I'm just saying, if you did it where you didn't allow a variance, right, and it just capped at 50.
The issue is we cannot, how do I say that? We can't require there not to be, like, that they can't do a variance. We're not legally allowed to do that. Because if an applicant chooses to do a variance, they can choose to do a variance, doesn't mean it'll be approved. Many times staff try to discuss with an applicant before they submit for a variance and tell them, like, hey, this is something, I think you have a good case here, submit, you can get it. Or, I mean, you can do whatever you want to do, I can't stop you, but I'll tell you right now, I will not be writing a staff report to approve this, because I don't think you meet the requirement. So that's kind of, like, that's what staff does now, but we cannot legally prohibit anybody from requesting a variance if they choose to do so.
what percentage is staff discretion?
15?
2%?
Under 15, anything over 15. and
So
over.
but we would still have to allow a 15% variance?
No, I mean, regardless, this comes to the planning commission. If they're doing any sort of height incentive, it still comes to planning commission, regardless.
Gotta meet the approval.
And you have to meet all the approval criteria for hardship based on size, topography, slope.
So there's no way that something that is higher than 50 can sneak past planning commission.
No. There's nothing that's, yeah.
I know that, but just never say no. There's no way in this town.
Yeah.
Okay.
Seen too much. I haven't been doing this that long. Give me a little bit of naive hope.
That's why I'm saying it's just, that's dinosaurs over here on this side.
Yeah. You seem to.
Yeah, so, okay. It's a height bonus, any variance comes, variance can be criteria. I would just throw out that, okay, 75% gets you height, 65% plus something else. Would also qualify. 75 by itself. And the other one is 4 out of 6. 4 out of 7, sorry. Now it's 4 out of 7.
65 would be 4 out of 7.
Yeah.
No, if you did 65, you could do that and one other. 75 by itself, 65, that and one other.
That's just me.
We could do that,
Well, there would be more.
okay? Otherwise, you're doing 4.
Because there are some of the other things on that list that are definitely not cheap. Because like additional weather protection is not a cheap option. And art can get really expensive really fast, especially when we're mandating 1% of the total project cost.
I think it gives developers an excuse to be able to put in parking, which makes the property more valuable. It's kind of like, do I really want to take out, rentable space, but this way I can still keep what I want and get the parking that makes the whole development more valuable.
And I also, it's just an opinion, but based on hearing what I hear from the community, I think the parking is the biggest issue. And if we do something that increases parking, I think that's going to be accepted more than if we have them paint a mural. Or we have them put in a bench or something.
As much reticence as we've heard about increasing the height along this corridor, I think if we can say that we're increasing the odds of getting some decent parking out of the deal, I think that'll ease that burden.
Well, but you also have the step back, which would make it.
Right, which will make it less noticeable to
Because
pedestrians
there's
and
not a
drivers
solid,
anyway.
there isn't something solid there.
Yeah, we're not gonna have the great white wall of Gresham.
Right.
So is all of that going to cantilever? Is that the plan? Step back?
Oh, not according to this, it doesn't count.
I'm just going to bring some of that back. Yeah.
Push it back.
Somebody on the 4th floor gets a very nice balcony.
Yeah, pretty much how.
And that'd be more incentive to live there too.
Absolutely. Troutdale penthouse suites.
For sale. Okay. That's my thought.
I agree that it should, with you, 75 stands alone. Percent of parking. But I like the 65 with 2 others. Would you give them a little more choice to choose? Because when you're, like you said, we can't require it, so we have to make it look as good as we can to get them to go the way we want them to go. even though I don't like it at all, but, you know, this is what we're gonna get. Like you said, it can't be perfect.
That's a good line. All right. Where we at, guys?
Now, do you have to rewrite this?
That section, we'll rewrite it to add what we heard here tonight. I mean, that is if the vote goes to, a recommendation to council based on the amendments that were made to the package, But then, we would rewrite it, adding what we heard here tonight about 75, you have to pick four of the 6 unless you provide 75% of the minimum parking. If you were to provide 65% and 2 other from the list below, that also meets. So it'd be something along those lines. I'll wordsmith it and we'll get it dialed in, but it'll be something along those lines. And then the list will still stand, because if someone chooses not to do that, because like, hey, we're providing parking, but we're gonna be under 60%, then we still have to choose 4 of these 6.
And the height you're playing with? The height,
It's 4 stories,
4 stories?
capped at 50.
At 50 feet.
50 is a max.
Just making sure that's part of the discussion.
So we can vote tonight on the final order of findings of fact with section 4.740 amended
Correct.
as we're talking.
There's no one for this.
Oh, got a hand.
Thought we had Sandy up. All right. So this would be based on testimony received. And research to allow this to benefit the community further. We're making that recommendation for the change. Right? Okay. Okay. So we'll remove that.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Prickett.
I move that we recommend approval of the proposed text amendments with changes to 65, parking provided a minimum of 65% plus 2 items on the list, or 75% without any other action taken.
Or
Or
4 of the 7.
Or 4 of the 7.
All right. And no other changes? Wilcox?
Actually, I had a couple of additional questions, really unrelated to all this. I'm still not clear on the breaks in the building where you go 150 feet, then you have to have a 20 by 20 foot recess. Then it talks about a 10 by 20 foot recess in the facade. Explain what the difference is between those two.
One is a building break. One is a break in the building measurement. One is a break in the facade measurement.
So the 20 in depth by 10 feet wide is considered a separation of a single building. So that way we don't have, where you can have, say, one building that is 200 feet long. Well, that one building is now considered, for the purposes of design standards, two buildings when they have the break of 20 feet in depth and 10 feet wide. The other break that you're talking about is to have the recessed facade, so it's not one flat building. And that's the one that is, where is it?
I'm looking at figure 3 on page 4-42. Looks like a 200-foot building.
Yeah.
150 feet from one end to the 20-foot break, and then whatever distance beyond the 20-foot break.
Yeah, that's the maximum that a building, a quote-unquote building can be, is 150 feet. And then it has to have a building break of 20 feet.
That helps us stay within fire.
It's just more for design aesthetic,
Just so you don't have such a huge looking.
flat building.
So you do have to have a.
Still not clear what's the difference between that 20 by 20 recess and the 10 by 20 facade.
The 25% is saying at least a portion of the facade, no matter how big the building is, has to vary in terms of
So that
Clean it.
facade break could be 50-foot stretch of building.
Yeah.
Yes.
For example, if you look at our downtown right now, they're all separated as like individual buildings now. But was initially built, instead of them all being right along the street, some of the entrances like step back. Like if you think about where Lolo's Pizza is, how those two sections step back, that's essentially what this is. So it breaks up, so it's not just one long flat facade up against, that's that you see. So it gives some depth to it. That's what the smaller breaks are. The other depth is just that you don't have one big building where it's still connected, but it's considered two buildings for the sake of the 25% and other type of architectural features to give more of character to the building. So it's not just concrete tilt-up buildings.
Does it end up being two buildings then?
For the sake of design standards, yes. As far as the structure as a whole, it depends on how they were to build it.
So
But
two different addresses or two different building numbers?
so that, and again, that depends on how it's built. So it can be like downtown, for example, they're all connected, right? So you look at them and think it's one big building, but they're actually individually condo platted. So they're on their own parcels with 0 lot lines. So it just kind of depends on how it's developed. Typically with if it's one large building and it's connected the whole way, but it has multiple businesses in the bottom, they'll have different addresses to them, but it'll be one solid building, if that makes sense. It's not all under one building address.
I didn't measure with my tape measure, but according to Google Street View, downtown blocks, Troutdale are only 200 feet long to begin with. So this figure 3 is probably an entire block downtown. The other comment I had is on page 4-41. 3B, it says maximum building length, and then it says the maximum building length of a portion of a building. I think the wording of that took out that second maximum, made more sense. It said, so it would say building length of a portion of a building.
Oh, that's at least 60% of the length of the ground level street-facing facade of the building is within the maximum setback.
Oh, I see what you're saying. You're saying, so maximum building length is more of the header of that sentence. That's why it has a period. And then it's maximum building length for the portion of a building located within 20 feet. So it's a header, similar to, for example, the list we've been talking about with the community benefits, how those say
We'll just look at all of
Say
these
oversized
permits.
Yeah, I'll just have a little.
Yeah.
It's just a little precursor to
What
what
the-
it's, what that
Like
section is
like a
about.
subheading.
Yeah, subheading.
Okay, that's all I have for now.
Okay. So we had a motion and I did not hear a second on
I
that.
will second that.
Okay. Do we need to restate it? Are we good? You guys good? No? You need it restated?
I'm good.
Okay, all right. So, let me get my act together here. So we have a motion and a second for case file LU-0007-2026, text amendments, zoning district overlays, and this will be as amended. And approval will be making that recommendation to the city council. Any discussion on the motion?
I do. Commissioner Glantz,
Yes.
Commissioner Minkoff,
Yes.
Commissioner Kester,
Yes.
Commissioner Prickett,
Yes.
Commissioner Wilcox,
No.
Chair Stephenson,
Yes.
and Commissioner Allen.
Yes.
Okay, that passes. All right, thank you, everyone. That was a slugger there. That was hard. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we get a creativity award or anything?
You should.
Yeah.
I mean, I would
Gold star.
give yourself one.
All right. Guess what? If you are up.
All right, I have a couple of announcements tonight. Tomorrow, we have our second Project Advisory Committee meeting for the Economic Opportunities Analysis that we are currently updating with our project team. It is from 1 to 2:30 in the afternoon, and if you're interested, you can email me and I can send you the Zoom link. We have the public draft of our urban forest management plan will be online, and it will be sent out to all committees later this week for review, and it will be a public draft for about a month for people to comment on it, and we hope to take it to city council for adoption at their last meeting in July before their summer recess. Metro, they're working on their Vision 50 kind of update plan for the region. I sent an email out to the commission yesterday about how you can participate in that effort and attend any meetings. So I just want to make everyone aware. If you're interested in regional planning and what the region is doing as far as regional policies around growth and development, you can check out the Metro's website about that project. First Friday is June 5th. It's just around the corner. So that's exciting. And then we are doing a Sharon Nesbitt Park celebration, which we're calling Summerfest. And it's Summerfest Light, and it will be from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. on Saturday, June 20th. And we are going to be starting off with a neighborhood strolling parade that starts at Mayor's Square, and it'll end up at the Overlook in the park area. We'll have some speakers, and we'll have some food and some fun treats for kids as well. It's going to be a real family-friendly affair with some llamas and a marching band, so it should be fun.
What time again?
10 to 1 on Saturday, June 20th. And
Find llamas that can play instruments.
Yeah, bagpipes would be nice.
yeah. And then the same day, the Historical Society just down the road is also doing Summerfest activity and celebrating the 250th anniversary of the nation. So if you're at the park, you can just walk on down to the Historical Society to go to that event too. So lots of activities are happening. And I don't want to forget that the Sandy River Recreational Shuttle is starting Memorial Day weekend. The shuttle will take folks from the Outlet Mall up to Dabney to float the Sandy River. So folks don't have to take 2 cars down here to Troutdale, or they could just take TriMet and get off at the stop right in front of the Outlet Mall itself. Lots of things happening. That's it.
Okay. Are people going to be aware of the temperature of the river on Memorial Day?
Better wear his wetsuit, let's put it that way.
I think anybody who's ever been down there on
We-
Memorial Day weekend will remember.
Well, what I'm afraid of it, just people that get into the
Right.
river and not realize the temperature
Right. There will,
That's a common warning.
of the glacier melt that you got going on down there, and it's,
Great. There will be river safety awareness that's provided on the shuttle.
and then I guess my other question would be for the commission is, do we want to look over the forestry plan and make a recommendation to council? It's not ours, but since it's a public document,
We can certainly I can certainly bring it to the planning commission for review. It doesn't have any edits to the development code itself. There are some municipal code edits dealing with our public street tree section in the municipal code.
and this isn't one, but usually, like water, sewer, all of those, we always look at those. And council always wants us to look at those, so I was just thinking, get bored and give us something to do. Everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
And I will put it on the planning commission agenda for June.
All right, so here we go. Commissioner Minkoff, you're first.
Oh, thank you very much. These are always educational. And that is to say, I do appreciate everyone's patience for my questions. I do appreciate the answers, and thank you to staff. And I think they're doing a yo people's job. Can't say yeoman anymore. I don't know what you say. Yo people, yo person, or we could just say yo. Hey, thank you very much.
All right, thank you, sir. Commissioner Glantz.
I'd probably just echo what Kevin said.
Okay. Joe? All right, Commissioner Wilcox?
Oh, okay. I have a few odds and ends, actually. Got kind of flown over earlier in the meeting, but on the forward sign hearing, there wasn't in our packet online, they had a land use application, and that included a fee schedule, which indicated they had to pay $800 variance request. I was curious if they paid that and if they got a refund.
They did, and they got a full refund.
Sounds good.
And the notice of withdrawal went out too.
Okay. The other one is after the Dakota coffee hearing, I was looking more closely at the juice zones, and I noticed a few things, some kind of unusual. One was under the residential permitted uses, they have townhouse across all three, MU1, 2, and 3. Then duplex, triplex, quadplex is not allowed in MU1. So I'm not sure how you distinguish. My understanding is the difference between a quadplex and a 4-unit townhouse that the townhouses are on individual lots and the quadplex are a single lot. So I don't know why one would be allowed and one not allowed. That was kind of odd that I thought. But
A lot division.
you can discuss that, whatever. Let's see, the other ones was LU1 permitted uses, conditional under MU1 and MU3, not allowed under MU2. Quite understand why that would be.
And what was the conditional use?
LU, light industrial.
Light industrial uses are permitted, or conditionally permitted in the MU1 and MU3 zone, but not in MU2 zone.
So I question why they weren't allowed in MU2 if they're allowed in 3. That's the question. And let's see, my last one was, the findings for Dakota said all permitted light industrial uses are listed as conditional uses within the MU1 zone. So my reading of that is if something is permitted in LU1, it's automatically permitted conditionally in MU1. Is that right? So I ran across some that were kind of questionable there. We had, for example, repair and modification shops, assembly and limited manufacturing, warehouse, accessory storage. So those 4 that I just mentioned are conditionally allowed in MU1. So I'm not sure if the intent was to allow everything in LI1 or LI to be conditionally allowed in MU1. Those are my observations. That's all I have.
Okay. Those are things we can,
Yeah, I wrote them down. I put them on the parking lot list. We're gonna be making some code changes in the future. So we'll keep you updated and we can come back and we can have a discussion. And we're gonna have to do some research on why those were allowed at the time.
My only assumption at the time is that there was I know there were some current businesses, but I honestly don't know, so yeah, we'll have to do some research on that.
current businesses and then some of the automobile things that existed, there was some issues with those, and so.
Yeah, so we'll do some research and we have a lot of work to do on those sections in the future anyway.
Yeah.
It'll be part of those.
Mr. Kester.
I believe the Arts Festival is this weekend.
Yes, yes, thank you.
I was just looking to see if I had the dates wrong in my head, but since it wasn't in your list, I thought I'd ask.
Yes.
So yeah, come down and have fun. Buy art.
Is that Saturday and Sunday?
I believe so, yeah.
Saturday and Sunday.
So they're shutting down Columbia River Highway early in the morning, or?
I believe it's Saturday morning.
Okay. And then, other than that, yeah, like as you said, Sharon, I mean, this one was a slug. And a good discussion from everybody, and I think as this body has been shown to do of late, we're coming up with the best that we can for the community. I definitely appreciate that. The other thing I'll call out is that there was, for anybody who was listening to city council last night, I had made a comment during public comment about parking in town center. In that, I think it would behoove us, as much as nobody wants to remove parking spots from circulation, there are a couple streets in the town center that we may be forced to do exactly that, just to allow free flow of safe movement of cars. Because Second Street is a disaster waiting to happen when both sides of the street are full. Fourth Street is going to get there, and with the traffic just from Public Works, I think. And as the apartment complex fills up, it's only a matter of time, and we do not want unregulated one-way streets or single passage streets in this city.
Are you seeing any apartment traffic on your street?
At this point,
Traffic?
minimal. But right now, the population of York Terrace is, I'd say, maybe 30% full. The last time I talked to them, they were anticipating being 70 to 80% occupancy by summer's end. So I mean, there is still vast quantities of empty parking in that complex, but we'll see how long it stays that way. And nobody in that complex is parking on 4th Street at this point. But like I said, it is, to a certain extent, in my opinion, only a matter of time. And even when we get back to full occupancy of all of the single-family homes on 4th Street, which we don't have anymore, parking can still be an issue, because there is one spot on 4th Street that is routinely, you can only get one car because of the residents there. So, and I've gotten clipped more than once from delivery trucks. I mean, Travis's guys usually know better, but Amazon doesn't. And I think it would behoove us, even if it removes parking from the town center pool, to allow for consistent two-way traffic on our streets. That's all I have.
Commissioner Kester, I think you got a point there. I've had to use my backup camera quite a distance. I was the smaller car. Luckily, it just hasn't been too frequent yet. As you say, that can change. That's a good point. That's it.
The only thing I have to say is, if you have an electric bike or scooter, you shouldn't be on the sidewalk. I see that more often than not. That's what we have a bike lane for. But they're not using the bike lane. They're using the sidewalk. Not all, not everybody, but there are a few. And it just concerns me, especially if a senior is walking with in a wheelchair or has a walker. They sink up on you really quick. And not necessarily do you hear them. So if you're out there, just please use the bike lane. That's all I'm asking. Other than that, great session. I appreciate all the input that was in today. Staff, you did a wonderful job. We appreciate it, and have a good evening.
Okay, I want to echo what Commissioner Kester brought up and see if we can't move this along again, is what can we do about this corner over here on 2nd and Buxton? What can be done? Rather than waiting
accident.
for more accidents while we wait for the county to, I mean, literally, how much would we get in trouble if we went out there and had a paint party after one of these meetings and went out the curb?
Some gorilla paint at the curb. It was discussed, it was brought up last night at city council, and we've all heard it. And we're looking at seeing what we can do.
I will help paint.
Turn off the cameras.
And I would also say that I think Buxton's becoming an issue. Buxton's reminding me of going over the Troutdale Bridge.
Yeah.
I mean, it's that tight with cars on both sides, and I don't know that that's going to be the best scenario for us long-term.
If it were just small cars, it wouldn't be a thing, but a lot of these types are giant trucks.
And I know there's no good answer for this, but the county and ODOT have got the large truck traffic going under the railroad trestle on Jordan to get to 84. And that's really, I guess the best word I could use is mean. Because they can't take that corner well, and there's oncoming traffic, and it's bang, bang, bang often. And I don't know that that is a better solution than using the bridges, to be honest with you. Because it's so hard to get underneath and make that corner. I think they need to come up with something different or better for everybody's benefit. I want to thank everybody. This has been a really difficult one, trying to balance the height and the parking and what Salem is doing to us. And, you know, I came up with the parking theory, and I want to thank you guys for running that by the LCD and getting it cleared so that we could do this. I do appreciate that very much. I think the community is going to appreciate it. So thank you guys for all working on that and making that happen. So just thank you all for your time and dedication to this, because this has been a hard one, or more difficult ones, I think, as far as code amendments go. When did this start? 2017.
It did.
Almost 10 years.
Hey.
Just short.
Down to them.
Well, it didn't start out well in 2017.
Yeah.
Okay, it probably didn't have much of a chance to get passed.
It didn't.
Get passed?
No,
Didn't have a
no,
chance.
we denied
We
the,
denied.
about a year and a half ago, the first round of amendments that came through that package, because everybody felt that Troutdale didn't provide enough input. And then, since that packet was denied, an opportunity came up for some additional grant funding to go back and.
No, but I mean, when the thing started back in 17, that was worse.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And it was like we were kind of in revolt mode for a while. And so we're in a much better place, and I think that's good for everybody. So with that, I won't ramble anymore. And we will see you all on June 10th. And with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay, she beat you. Second?
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion, and a second to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
I.
Opposed? Okay, we are adjourned. Thank you all very much.
Thank you all.